Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to see so many people here in this room and also online. Welcome to our career event. And I'm happy that you are interested in careers in space. We have very special guests from ESA today who will introduce the different opportunities in the space industry in ESA, and also for inspiring young people, professionals, who can talk about their experience in the space industry and in as a trainee in ESA. But first, I will do a little introduction. I am Maire Olesk. I am helping young people from Estonia to go to ESA for the traineeships. So if you have any questions in the future about traineeships in the space industry, you can always write to me and contact. Then start. So I will talk a little bit first about ESA and Estonia, the connection. So ESA and Estonia started cooperation in 2007, and Estonia formed the European Cooperation State Agreement in 2009. From 2015, Estonia became an ESA member state. It's a very special day because from there on, we have many different programs we can participate in. And in 2017 was launched ESA Business Incubation Center in Estonia, one in Tartu and one in Tallinn. And we are today also here in Tartu Science Park, which is a special place where ESA BIC is operating. And also last year was special because first time Estonians could apply for astronaut positions. We had 57 Estonians who applied, who wanted to become an astronaut. Among 23,000 applications, about 5 to 7 Estonians got to the next round. So it's very exciting to see if any of them will proceed to the final rounds on become an astronaut. And the news about it will come in end of the year. So since 2008, when we started cooperating with ESA, we have about 20 plus trainees in ESA. Currently, there are 6 in ESTEC, EXAT and ESOC, and we also have 3 staff members. This is a very a great number because all these years we've had different opportunities, but today we have really got into the point where we have a very good representation of Estonians in the different establishments. And they all have been working in very different fields, from spacecraft engineering and remote sensing to software development, robotics, also legal side, space industry, commercialization, etc. So the opportunities are very varied, and everyone should find something interesting they like there. Also, I was 10 years ago training myself in ESA in Estrin, which is near Rome. And I must say it was a very, very valuable experience. And I gained a lot of crucial contacts for a future career. So I really encourage to try. There are different opportunities in space. And today we're talking about the traineeships in ESA and in EUSPA. But also who is interested, then you can also get involved in the local satellite student projects at Tartu University or TalTech. Also, there are need for different students in companies and universities for lots of different really exciting space projects that are related to future space exploration, like going to Moon or Mars, and many other applications. So if you have any interest, or even if you don't have any background in space, just let us know and we'll find something exciting for you. Then today, ESA representative will talk about the different programs. And I will shortly just introduce the EU agency for the space program, EUSPA, who also provides different traineeship opportunities. So USPA is dealing with Galileo and EGNOS, which are Europe's independent satellite navigation programs. And there are shorter traineeships, 3 to 6 months, up to 1 year. And the positions will be published throughout the year. So you just have to check out the website and see if there's anything interesting, because there are also very different areas you can apply in. And also very exciting is that this spring we'll announce the Estonian National Trainee Program. So our aim is to send two Estonians every year to ESA for a traineeship. And we have prioritized some fields which are more interesting for the Estonian industry. So they mainly are like cyber, artificial intelligence, innovation side. So we will introduce this in spring this year, and you can find out about it in Estonian Space Office Facebook site, or just follow the space news in Estonia. So these are the places where you can find more information. And most of the traineeships and news will be published in the Facebook page. But we also have different videos in the YouTube channel, so we can provide you with some more information there. And here are my contacts. If there's any questions or anything you would like to ask about traineeships, then feel free to contact me. But now I would like to give word to our very special guest from ESA, Florence Lustalo, who will talk about different programs in ESA and what are your opportunities for applying.
Thank you very much, Eire. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody in Estonia. So I'm here. My name is Florence, and indeed I am, let's say, coordinating, responsible for the all entry-level programs at ESA since quite so many years, actually. And today I will speak about all these programs to you. We have together also with me our YGTs from Estonia, who will tell you about the real life of YGT. I speak about the program, they tell you the truth, and they tell you exactly what they are living. So another thing I want to tell you before I start my presentation is that there is not one path to space, not one only path to ESA. Myself, I didn't know that I would work one day for ESA. I didn't start, my first job was not in ESA, but I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to work in human resources. I followed a certain path, which took me to ESRIN, like Eire. We didn't meet there, but we both worked there. And I don't have a background in space. So it's true, you can also come and work to space in space sector, even if you don't have specifically a background in space. So now you're going to learn about all our opportunities. I hope this presentation will answer your questions. I know you all have a lot of questions, but listen well to the presentation, because I'm pretty sure that you will recognize one question or the other you had, and you will find the answer. So now I will start. And oops, that's the end of my presentation. So voila. I guess that you all know what ESA is, but I think it's important to remind that ESA is a mission which is, you don't see the presentation, I think, I'm told. So of course I have to share it. If I don't share my screen, you don't see my presentation. Voila. You should see it now. Can you see it? Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer. Thank you. Okay, so as I said before, so ESA as a mission, which is this is very important. Estonia is one of them, as Eira said to you, and we also have associated member states and cooperating states. Now, when our jobs are open, they are open everywhere where ESA has establishments. So that is our headquarters in Paris, but mostly in ESTEC in the Netherlands, which is the, let's say, largest establishments, but also in ESRI in Italy, which has a focus on Earth observation and also the launcher Vega, and also computer science, but also in ESOC in Germany, or in EAC, which is also the place where our astronauts are training, and also in NEXAT, which is the center specifically more for telecommunications, but in Spain, where we have space science there. So you see that it's a bit across Europe. Now, and what I wanted to also, just say, and I started, is that we operate across every area of the space sector. Space science, Earth observation, navigation, telecommunication, and quality research development. So it's really vast. And in fact, there is therefore something for a lot of people if you are studying science or engineering, but also other areas, which I will tell you about a bit later. Now, these are all our programs, and excuse me, I will, for the time being, let aside the YGT, because we will focus on it at the end of my presentation, because it's a big program and we have at the moment 109 opportunities published, which can interest. We'll speak to you about their experience, as we said before. So let's start with the student before. You may have seen on the social network.
I interrupt you for a second. So there seems to be an internet problem. Maybe if you switch off your video, your voice sometimes cuts out. So maybe if you switch off your camera, we will hear you better.
Okay, let me, now I don't, because as I am on the full screen, give me one point. Where do I see the camera? I see the mute button, but not the camera.
Okay, let me see if I can do it for you. Seems I can't.
I don't know where it is. Sorry about that.
Okay, I managed to switch it off.
Maybe here. Mute. Attends. Say that again.
You can continue. We managed to switch it off here.
Ah, okay. Excellent. Excellent. So I go back. I hope it will be now better. Voila. So no, I was talking about this path to space, because we have many programs in ESA, as we have discussed already, introduced. And if you see this, let's say, chart on the social networks or on our website, look at it. It's very interesting. It will help you to understand which path is for you, whether you are studying at BSc or MSc, or whether you already have a PhD or you have a bit more experience. So look at this chart. If you see it, it's very, it's making the path to ESA quite clear. So our student placements or internships, what are they? So the opportunities are opened in November every year for a start in ESA the year after, okay? And the topics are more than 100. And on top of that, we have several topics also on one opportunity. So when you see an area which, let's say, is interesting for you, you can open it, and maybe there are even within this opportunity a few topics that you can be interested in. Our internships last from 3 to 6 months, and they are, again, all across our establishments. Okay, who can apply? Of course, if you are a citizen of Estonia, you are eligible, like all other member state citizens, European cooperating states, and also Canada as cooperating state, but also our associated member states. This, I forgot to say something very important. To be eligible for this program, you must be studying towards your master. You must be a student. That is, you must be able to prove that you have your student, let's say, status. The National Trainee Program, Ari mentioned it earlier. Estonia has an agreement with ESA. I will not say a lot about it because I think it's indeed more to Ari, and if you have more questions, you can probably ask her. But in any case, the status of the trainee, national trainee, Estonian national trainee is, let's say, similar to the one of the YGT. The YGT is an ESA program, and the national trainee program is, in your case, the Estonian national trainee program. So in that respect, I will not say too much here because you will hear also for the YGTs, and as I said, it's similar. The research fellowship program is for those of you who have a PhD, or if you are about to get your PhD, then you can apply to this program. We, let's say, favor the candidatures of those who are about to get the PhD or who have got it in the last 4 or 5 years maximum, so have not too much experience, let's say, after PhD. The contract is for 2 years with a possibility of extension for 1 year. And of course, all the research you would carry in the frame of this fellowship is related to space research in science, space applications, and technology. So it can be in, let's say, space science, planetary astrophysics, etc., or also in the area of Earth observation, or also in the area of human spaceflight research. So it's also quite broad, and we have something like 60 positions a year. We don't have a specific recruitment campaign for the PhD, for the research fellowships. So if you are interested, I would highly recommend you set up an alert in our system, and I will repeat that several times tonight, so that when there is a position open, you receive the information and you go and see if this position is interesting for you. Again, on the eligibility, of course, you must be a national of ESA member states, so in your case, Estonia, and you must, the PhD is the level of education. If you have a PhD, I highly recommend you to apply either to the research fellowship program or to the staff positions, not to the young graduate training program. ESA co-funded research is an interesting program which is not actually managed by ESA, by human resources, but by another team. And it's, let's say, for the ones who are either preparing for a PhD or postdocs. In that case, the agreement is between ESA and the university, not with a single person. And through this program, ESA is looking for innovative ideas, of course, related to space activities. So you have a program, you have an idea, you should present it through your university. And in fact, if your project wins, let's say, then you could be, let's say, co-funded up to 50% for the maximum of 3 years and up to 90 kilo euro. So this is very interesting for you because, again, the agreement is with your university, but you have access to ESTEC, for example, laboratories, okay? And you will get also the support from ESA experts, and you will have the opportunity to have this networking opportunities. Again, apply at any time of the year via ID's ESA Int, and I highly recommend you to again go to our website and read about it if you are interested. Now, the junior professional program is our, as I say, new baby. It's the opportunities were launched in November last year, 21. We had 30 positions opened, and this targets candidates with 2 to 3 years of experience after master, not 5 years, not 6 years, not 1 year, 2 to 3 years. And the positions are indeed for a fixed term contract of 3 years, but will, let's say, develop towards a permanent position. And during these 3 years of contract, let's say the junior professionals will get a very strong, dedicated development program, let's say, so that they, after the 3 years, when they become staff member, they have already quite a thorough knowledge of ESA and partners. Okay, so this is really the tailored development program is very important in the junior professional program. Of course, our junior professionals are also guided, tutored, mentored by experts, and they have this on-the-job learning. So it's a very interesting and new program. Now we are going to start the selection of our future junior professionals who will start in, let's say, summer, autumn 22, and the next program will be in 3 years. So get ready, the ones who are just now getting their master. Now, the program which is of interest, let's say at the moment, because as I said before, we have 109 opportunities currently open. So if you are about to get your master, if you have just got your master, if you have up to 1 year experience, you can apply. And as we say this year, our motto, which is dream, dare, do, and we really mean it, because you may dream about space, but you have to dare to apply. You should, I'm sure that Riho will tell us, of course, that yes, he dared, and you see he's here. Last year, we had something like 10,000 opportunities, and we recruited a bit more than 100 people. So at a certain point, the ones who have dared and who really made a good choice also for the opportunity, and prepared well, managed to come to ESA. So there is one thing I want to say here. We often have the question, can I apply to more than one opportunity? So first of all, since last year, we decided that you could apply only to 2 opportunities maximum. Why? Because we received so many opportunities, so many applications, that there is no need for you to apply 30 times. It's not in any case doing you any favor. It's better that you take your time to browse all the opportunities and you look what we offer and you choose the one which fits best to your background, your education, maybe the projects you've made, if you have done some internship before, but also your interest. Where do you want to work? What is of interest to you? It's very important in your career and also when you start to look for jobs that you consider what you like to do. Where do you have pleasure? Because what motivates you, where you have pleasure, you will have more success. So it's very important that you look at all these opportunities, you choose what corresponds to you best, and you apply to these ones. If you get the interview, if you manage to be successful, and then you join us as YGT, you will have 1 year of contract, maybe 2, because you may have an extension. You will work on very inspiring projects, as I mentioned before, in the field of navigation, telecommunication, Earth observation. We have a few opportunities also in the field of computer science, and cybersecurity is a bit everywhere at the moment. Also, it's very important. We have a lot of opportunities in engineering and science. So this is something which can be interesting for you to know. And you will also get on-the-job learning. The YGT program is for those of you who have no experience. Why? Because we strongly believe that if you are about to graduate or you've just graduated and you don't have specific, let's say, experience, professional experience, but you are curious, you want to learn, you are open-minded, you are open to work in a multicultural environment and international, you want to discover what it is to have a team of where people have all different backgrounds. If you want to, let's say, discover an area which is not exactly what you have studied, but you are able to explain your motivation, you may be selected. So it's very important that you don't yourself decide that you don't have the right profile. Let us decide that you have a right profile. However, when you browse and consult all the opportunities, choose the one or maximum the 2 ones which are best in line with your aspirations and interests. By the way, I also want to say here, and I know that the period has been a bit strange for the ones who have started in last year, because we could not go on site as we would have liked to go. And part of the, let's say, key benefit of the YGT program is this mixture, is this meeting people, meeting other YGTs, research fellows, have a social life, share knowledge, share experience all together. You are from Estonia, you will work with someone from Greece, from Norway, from Finland, from France, from Spain. So this is the richness of also this program, to discover other cultures through your peers. In which disciplines do we recruit? You can read my slide: mechanical engineering, electrical, system engineering, software engineering, telecom, ground segment and systems operations, We also have a lot of, let's say, disciplines within the mechanical engineering discipline or electrical engineering, like optical propulsion, structures. I think you can read, so I'm not going to go through all of that. But we also have scientific disciplines, like I said before, in Earth observation and environmental science, or planetary and space science, life and material sciences, mathematics. So it's very varied. And in the area which is not on the engineering or science, we also have, of course, procurement, law, contracts, international law, finance, communication, human resources. This year, we even have an opportunity in facility management. And I see here that we have put information technology, which, let's say, in information technology, computer science, I would say is across all disciplines in ESA. So that can be in our, let's say, Department of Information Technology, but computer science is also everywhere in ESA. So, and we mentioned also cybersecurity before. This is also very important. I think we have 1 or 2 or 3 even opportunities in that field. We also have, of course, opportunities related to artificial intelligence. So please, if you have an interest in these fields, look at our YGT opportunities. We look for people who have a passion for space, but really a passion, and who are motivated and who have, as I said before, this appetite to learn. So now here you can read industrial experience. This is more for the staff positions, not that much for the YGT, but also we want people who, let's say, again, who want to learn language skills, yes, because we work in English. And if you work in ESRIN, you will work in English, but in the corridors, in the canteen, in your life in Frascati, you will learn to speak Italian, or you will learn to speak German if you are based in ESOC, just as an example. Then one of my last slides is about diversity, because ESA is, let's say, an inclusive agency. We really want to foster diversity, be it in the gender balance, or also in including people from various backgrounds, irrespective of beliefs and age and, let's say, yeah, general and or sexual orientation. And so this is also a key important for us. Also, we welcome people who have disabilities, so no one should feel that they cannot apply. This is extremely important. The only criteria is that you must be one of the ESA member states and have just graduated with no or 1 year experience. And of course, you must have, yeah, as I say, you must have your master's. So it's only on the citizenship and, let's say, educational background that we are really strict. I mentioned already that ESA has a very friendly environment. So, of course, again, at the moment, we don't go on site, but otherwise, in all our sites, it's easy to network, to make friends, to socialize, and to discover other cultures. And last but not least, this is one of my, let's say, slides where I want to share with you what are, let's say, the words, but also what is behind the words, which I consider as key and extremely important for you to have a fruitful and successful experience. And with these words, I want to mention the togetherness, the bonding, the values. Values are very important. Let's say, to be yourself, to be respectful of the others, to have interest, to have passion, I read like sharing, proactive, creativity, asking. Asking is key. When you start your career and all over your career, you can always ask questions and you will find the answers. And I think that with these words, I reach my last slide, which gives you some, let's say, how do you say, links and yeah, links. So don't forget to set yourself an alert where you will receive our opportunities. And another thing is now, if you go on our webpage and you see all the opportunities for the YGT program, you can write some keywords. So if you, for example, you are interested in artificial intelligence, if you write artificial intelligence, you will see the few opportunities in which have, let's say, artificial intelligence as main subject. If you like, if you are interested in human resources, do the same, or in computer science, the same, mechanical engineering, write these few words that you think are key for you. And otherwise, you have to read the titles and maybe open the opportunity and read what's inside. And voila, with this, I want to close. I'm ready for questions and ready to pass the floor to Eire, maybe, to see what we are going to do and hear next. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Florence, for this great overview. There was a lot of information. So if you have any questions, please write to the chat and we'll reply all the questions at the end in the Q&A session. And if you have questions later, just approach us through Estonian Space Office Facebook messages or write an email to me. Now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Grete Lilijane, who is one of these rare Estonians who managed to become a trainee in ESA. And I'm sure we have a lot to learn from her presentation. What are the qualities you need to go to ESA?
Thank you, Eire. I have never spoken with the microphone before, I think. Someone will put my presentation on, right? Okay, and this is the... Okay. But until it's loaded, I am Grete. I studied physics in the University of Tartu. On my last year of my master's, I applied for the YGT position, but I was not selected. And then I applied to work for Milrem Robotics for 1 year and applied again to ESA. And the next year I was selected to this program. So what I want to say is that the next time when I applied, I felt that I was very lucky because my supervisor currently in ESA was just starting a project with Milrem Robotics. And there were other things that were contributing to this. So what I want to say is that if you apply and you are not selected, it doesn't mean that you are not good enough, but it might mean that you just weren't lucky. Okay, I think I'm ready now. So I am from ESOC, and ESOC is located in the southern part of Germany, and it's responsible of operating the missions of the European Space Agency. Not all the missions aren't operated by ESOC, but most of them are, and mostly I think the Earth observation missions are what they're working on. And on the lower image, you see the most famous room in ESOC, which is the control room. Usually people go there when there's a launch of a new satellite, or if they want to monitor some kind of event. Like most of the time, the room is completely empty. But if there's a big event, then then the room is used. I am a part of the robotics and data system section at ESOC. And one of the areas that they are investigating is human and robotic missions. So NASA has already sent rovers to the remote planets or on the moon, but ESA has not yet. So what they are looking for are the areas that we have to consider when we get this far to send a robot or a rover to the Mars or to the moon, for instance. And all those experiments that they are doing are called Meteoron experiments. So they started with them already in 2010, and they have continued over time. So the first experiments were so that astronaut on the ISS was operating a rover on Mount Etna. So Mount Etna is quite similar in a visual side to what we can expect to see on the moon. And like every Meteoron experiment tests a different thing or different idea. So on the early experiments, they wanted to set up this disruption tolerant networking, because when we are talking about communicating with the robotic device on the moon or Mars, then we have to consider that there is a loss of data sometimes, and there is a delay. So this disruption tolerant networking is disruption tolerant networking protocol is helping to solve that the commands sent from Earth are actually reaching the robot. So this is this general introduction, because this year I was also part of the Meteoron experiment. And this year they wanted to try out end-to-end experiment with 2 robotic assets. So they had a scout rover that is, can I show it with this? Ah, no, okay. That you can see on the top left corner. That was the aim of the scout rover was to probe the area for the Interact rover, which is next to it. And the Interact rover was doing the science experiments. But they didn't actually have the real rovers, and the whole experiment was simulated. And what I did was that I provided them operators with the simulation camera data. So I set up the Unity environment, loaded their Mount Etna digital elevation map and imagery data, built the terrain, listened to the simulator that was simulating the rover's telemetry data, moved the rover in the simulator, and sent out the camera image from the Unity to the operators. Yes, and how this experiment then was this summer is shown on the diagram on the top left corner. So for both of the rovers, you had a navigator and a driver. I also participated in the same experiment as a ESA driver. I had a navigator who set up the path for me. Then we had a surface operation manager who was coordinating the communication between both robotic assets and the science team. Then we had a project who was responsible of the whole project. And then we had some out of scenario people. And it seems that we considered the experiment to be, that the experiment was successful. There were some lessons learned. And this summer they will do similar experiment, but the real rovers again on Mount Etna, and they also want to include astronauts again. I think my YGT position is a bit different from from most of it because I am in a team where they are testing out different ideas. So my first thing was to work with the Unity simulator, but after the Metron experiment, we stopped working on it for a while, and I was so lucky that I was involved in several other projects. So one of the projects that I was working with was to set up a secure HTTPS connection with NASA and CNES, which is a French space agency. And this is also this kind of novel thing that has not been done before. And they want to see how to send securely telemetry data between the agencies. I also, at the moment, I'm working actually on a web development project for flight dynamics. And this is to display data for the control room to see, basically it is displaying the telemetry data sent from the satellites. And they want to use it for the JUICE satellite next year and for the DART satellite in September. So the DART is a NASA satellite that has been sent out to test out if we can redirect some kind of astronaut with the impact of the satellite. So some fun things that I have done while being in ESA was that I was also supervising 2 high school students for 2 weeks. There they built the Leo rover from parts together, and then I gave them ROS-related task. ROS is a robotic operation system. So they had to, on user interface, they had to draw the trajectory that rover was passing through, where rover was passing through. And I also took part of the ESA Open Days. I gave a speech in ESA Open Days 2021. Okay, that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grete, Lilijane. Now let's move on to our next presenter, who is Riho Palis. Riho, are you ready?
Yes, hi. I'm just going to set up the slides. I'm hoping that you are seeing my screen now. Is that the case?
You see your video, yes, but not your presentation.
Okay, let me try again. How about now?
No, the profile image.
Okay, now you started screen sharing.
And you see the full screen, right?
Not screen. Yeah, now it's full screen. It's good to go.
Okay. Okay, great. Sorry about that. So I'm a YGT at the ESA Space Solutions section. And yeah, I'll talk a bit about my background and my work as a YGT as part of this Space Solutions section. So about my background, I have a bit of work experience prior to joining the YGT program. I worked a bit in sustainable development and digital transformation innovation in data analytics and business development. But I did actually another master's degree a bit later on in my life. And then I was actually eligible to participate in this program. And I'm super happy that I was, because it really aligns with my values and what I saw a lot of interesting objectives for my future career. So basically, it's an excellent opportunity and has been an excellent opportunity to get to know a bit of the space market and its opportunities to advance innovation in the space sector, because I'm really passionate about innovation, and also to contribute to sustainable development, which I've been doing before, and in this case now to learn how to use space technologies for this purpose. And when I'm talking about the space solutions section, we're basically managing the largest space innovation network in the world. And our goal is to be the go-to place to create business evolving space to improve basically everyday life. We're supporting European startups and SMEs in developing their businesses using space technology and space data. And then we offer, of course, for this purpose, full-scale support in terms of funding, business mentoring, and other kind of support to basically help them, startups, to build their businesses and to also create jobs. The Space Solutions section, or let's say the Space Solutions network, evolves or includes already 24 business incubation centers, which are spread out over 70 locations across Europe. We have about 200 new startups incubated every year. And so far, since 2004, when we had the first pilot project, we have supported and we are supporting currently over 1,200 startups, which is quite a vast number. And then the second pillar of our activities is actually what we call technology transfer. So we have currently 7 commercial brokers in 7 ESA member states, which are bringing together space and non-space industries to basically transfer technologies from one industry to another. And the third thing that we are doing is supporting or building this ESA Space Solutions Alliance, which is basically creating strategic partnerships between the industry and the startups that we are supporting. So the central and core objective is to expand the European space market and the whole space sector. In terms of my job tasks or assignments, I have basically 3 main assignments. One is related with data collection, management, and analytics. So I'm collecting data on all the startups that we have supported or are supporting at the moment, as well as the activities of the ESA BICs, as well as the activities of the ESA commercial brokers. So there's a vast amount of data that we have, and I'm supporting this collection process as well as management process, as well as analytics. And from analytical side, we're of course mostly interested in how successful has the network been and how to improve the success rate of the entire network. My second job assignment is basically providing operational support in managing this network. For example, this includes contracting. So we have a new ESA BIC lined up. We have an international tender opening up within this month. And within 6 months or so, we're hoping to launch ESA BIC Lithuania. So the network is going to expand with another ESA BIC, which is quite exciting. And then my third job assignment so far has been to support digital transformation in terms of operational workflows. And this means that due to the vast size of the network, we are right now working heavily to improve efficiency in terms of the management of this network. Because as you can imagine, with the rapid expansion from one ESA BIC in 2004 to now 24 and soon 25, 26 ESA BICs this year, the size of the network has really expanded really fast, and the operational management of this network in that sense has not really gone hand in hand. So I'm supporting how to improve this management process basically. And then I talk a bit more about the activities of ESA BICs. Then, as I mentioned, we provide full-scale support to startups in developing their businesses tied to space, which includes business support, basically business mentoring and support. Then we should offer office space and shared facilities. We provide 50,000 euros worth of non-equity funding. The startups will become part of the ESA Space Solutions Alliance and the networking and other opportunities these provide. We want to be the door opener for international investors. We offer the startup to use ESA BIC as a brand, which will increase their opportunities and allow them to really stand out in the market. And of course, we still provide technical support to them. And this could be in terms of legal support as well as direct technical support in developing the technology. I also wanted to share with you a map of some of the startups that we have been working with. Basically, the important point here is that we have supported and are supporting startups in basically all sectors and segments of the economy. And it also includes both upstream and downstream part of the space sector, as well as technologies, as well as applications, which is more tied to digital technologies. And I also wanted to definitely mention during this talk that we have an ESA in Estonia as well. And I'll talk a bit about ESA Estonia. So ESA Estonia was opened in 2017. They have two major locations. One is in Tali and one is in Tartu. And so far they have incubated 19 startups. And when you look at the startups, basically these are all of the startups that have been incubated or are currently incubated. And you might see some of the names here. Some of them might be familiar to you. And a lot of them actually have already raised, I don't have the numbers right now, but millions of euros of investment. So a lot of them actually quite successful already. Why I'm also talking about ESA Estonia is that I noticed in the preliminary questions that some of the students were interested in knowing more about what they can do if they're only in the first or second year of bachelor studies. So I would definitely recommend also to contact ESA Estonia just to get involved in the space network in Estonia. And I'm sure that they can also offer some interesting opportunities to take up trainings, or even sometimes if you go to the location of ESA, maybe you can even meet the startups, and maybe these give also some ideas on the different activities you can do already now that might increase your success rate in the future to apply for this YGP position or any other position in the space sector. And as final remarks, I just wanted to talk that say that this ESA YGP program, basically, I'm super happy where I am right now. And why is that? It's because it's an excellent work environment. It has offered numerous, let's say, countless learning opportunities. And it has really been a career starter in the space sector for me. And it has and will expand my horizon for future jobs, definitely, both if I continue in the space sector as well as if I go back to the sustainable development or development cooperation sector. And I really like the opportunity to be part of something bigger, to be a pioneer and a trailblazer, because being part of the mission or the final pursuit to put a person on Mars, for example, is really a mind-blowing opportunity for me. And yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, then please feel free.
Thank you, Riho, for your great presentation and yet another view on what trainee can do in ESA. So now we've had two presentations from the young graduate trainees, and we are moving on to research fellow, Tali, who will talk about her experience as a next step in the career.
Yes, hello everyone. I hope you can hear me. Okay, let me share my presentation. Okay. I hope it's full screen, so just let me know if it's not. So my name is Tali, and I'm a research fellow at ESA. A research fellow is basically a different name for a postdoc. So I have a doctor's degree. Yeah. So a lot of people talked about ESTEC and ESA, so I will take a deep dive into my background and how I ended up as a research fellow in ESA, because with a doctorate, it's a bit of a bigger circle. So my background is actually in electronics engineering and radiation effects. And an overview of my whole journey is I started in Estonia, and then I actually moved to Oslo. So I did not stay in Estonia to study. And then from Oslo, I moved to Geneva, and I will talk about that later. And now I'm here in the Netherlands, close to Leiden. So in Estonia, I studied in Tallinn. I don't know if it's relevant, but maybe interesting to know. And I actually planned to study electronics or IT. And instead, I took a gap year and went to Norway and learned Norwegian. And why I mentioned that is because it gave me an interesting opportunity to actually study in Norway, because you have to study in Norwegian. So I did a bachelor and a master's in electronics in the University of Oslo. And this opened other doors. So the University of Oslo has quite a few contacts with CERN, which means that I had the opportunity to be a summer student or a trainee at CERN for 2 summers. So this is me on the right in front of one of the CERN detectors. And on the left is basically a summary of what I did for my studies as electronics engineering. So the next step is actually related to, or how I ended up at ESA first, is related to CERN. So all of this sort of hangs together. So when I was a summer student at CERN, there's a collaboration agreement between ESA and CERN. And at the time, it wasn't very active, or they were just starting it up. So they had an idea to do a joint PhD position, which ended up being my PhD position. So I applied and I was accepted. And the topic was radiation effects in electronics, with a focus on commercial devices, so not space grade or hardened devices, and novel beams or new beams. And the novel beams part is important why CERN is involved, because of course they have a lot of radiation. And ESA was then involved in the commercial devices part, which is also new for ESA. So yes, for most of the 4 years of my PhD, I was actually in Geneva in Switzerland. I used to be part of an ESA program called NPI, which does not exist anymore, and now it's co-funding opportunities. But essentially, I was at ESA for 6 months during my PhD, and this was very convenient because, of course, ESA also has a radiation testing lab, which was very useful. And a part of the reason why I was involved with ESA was because of the JUICE mission, or the Jupiter Icy Moon Explorer mission. It has a very, let's say, interesting radiation environment, and a part of my experimental work and research was focused on that. So I already saw the big advantage of, let's say, getting your foot in the door, because those 6 months at ESA gave me a lot of contacts within ESA, and of course I had a supervisor at ESA. So it was really beneficial to make these connections. So when I finished my PhD, I decided to take a break from academia for a bit, and I actually really wanted to work at a startup. So I came to the Netherlands, and I worked for an airborne wind energy startup that was essentially building a plane. So they were also an aerospace company. And I worked as an embedded engineer. And by the way, I really recommend working in a startup environment. It's really exciting and fast paced. But this also gave me some experience in working in the industry. And now I'm back at ESA, back in let's say more of an academic position, but not 100%. So there's so I'm a research fellow in the technology department, but ESA also has a science department. So the programs are the same, but what let's say the research fellows do is a bit different. So the science department is very, very focused on the scientific research. And I would say the technology department research fellows are doing more practical work or more practical scientific work. So I'm in the Tech EDD section, which is the onboard computer and data handling section. And the work I do now is related to my PhD a bit. So I still work with radiation, but it's because the components that our section uses are very complex, and one actually needs, let's say, specialist knowledge in the electrical components to be able to do these radiation tests. So that's why the radiation part is still involved. And although I think Riho mentioned, and Florence, that because of the, let's say, the situation at the moment, a lot of the work is from home. So many people either stayed in their home country previously in the first year, or are now just in the Netherlands and half the time or most of the time working from home. Then if you do experimental work, then of course you have more opportunities to go actually on site. And I took full advantage of this, and I work quite a lot in the lab. And I also got to partake in some radiation experiments. And there are some sites here in the Netherlands. So that was also very nice. And actually on the bottom right picture, you see me and a PhD student in our section. So he's one of the co-funded PhD positions. So that means he will come to our section and perform some experiments, or we will help him during his time here with us. And then to give an example, a little bit, an idea of what we're doing in the section. So the main focus is onboard computers, mass memories, different high-speed links. But and there are, because of this is like the hardware background, but the actual outcomes of this might be something like the FISAT. So the FISAT is on the right, and it's the first ESA satellite with artificial intelligence on board. The task it performed is basically, it takes pictures of the Earth, and a lot of the pictures taken from the Earth have clouds on them. So traditionally, all of this data is just transferred back to the ground. But for many applications, the clouds are sort of useless. So you don't really need them. So this was a demonstrator of how to create cloud masks of images, and maybe only send pictures that don't have any clouds, or that have, let's say, less clouds. And then by doing that, you save how much data you actually have to send down to Earth. And it's actually interesting because on the upper right corner, you see the device that's on this satellite. It's a vision processing unit. And this satellite, this board was actually tested at CERN while I was doing my PhD there. And I was the beam operator for this experiment. So it all hangs together. Yes. So I see my presentation is much more sort of personal, but maybe it's interesting to know. So my advice to anyone that wants to get involved with ESA, or let's say another international organization, is just try to say yes to every interesting opportunity, because in the end, they sort of, all of this one opportunity leads into another one, and getting to know some people creates opportunities somewhere else where you do not expect. For example, how I ended up at CERN, or how I ended up at ESA. And the second point I think is really important. Even if you're not a perfect fit, you should definitely apply for positions, especially the young positions, but also any position at ESA. No one is a 100% perfect fit, so definitely apply. And the last part is about, so because of this homework situation, let's say it was a bit more difficult to make contacts with other younger people. So usually ESTEC is very open. There's quite many young people, and it was sort of like a gathering place there as well. So now it's more online, but there's still activities happening. So for example, I kitesurf. So there's a kitesurfing club here, and ESTEC is right on the beach, which is perfect. So quite a lot of people go and kitesurf during lunch, for example. And the Netherlands has a lot of beaches and wind, so it's kind of like the perfect sport to take up. So I recommend it. And another thing is, for example, the climbing club. And yes, there are no mountains here, but indoor climbing is still a thing, and it's a really popular thing to do with the other young people. And there's also the sailing club. So, I mean, these are the things I'm involved in, but there's countless other clubs that you can get involved in. And I think it's a really nice opportunity to both meet your colleagues, but also people that have been in the Netherlands longer and have more insights into how things work here. Yeah, that's essentially it. So I guess I'll take the questions also at the questions and answers round.
Thank you, Maris. Interesting, and I can really relate to the part that take all the opportunities you get, because you never know where you end up, and the path normally to the space industry can be very windy and very surprising. So indeed, very exciting. And I can also relate to the social life. I'm glad you talked about it, because it's actually a very big part of the experience in ESA to meet all these different people, different cultures, have all these different experiences. So that's very important, that later you will meet those people in the industry and you can talk about different business opportunities or whatever. So it's very, very important. So next we have Katriin Kristmann from TalTech. She is actually in Estonia. She's not in ESA, but she's got a very interesting project she's doing together with ESA. And I would like to talk about it, because as we say, moon is currently the next goal where everyone's running towards. So it's interesting to hear what the Estonian scientists are doing about it. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Aira. Hello from my side as well. I am Katriin, and I will talk about my project with my university and with ESA. All right, hope you see it. Okay. Are you seeing my screen? Yes, I hope so. Anyway, I am a doctoral candidate in Tallinn University of Technology, but this is one of those co-funded ESA PhD programs that Florence also spoke about. So I will speak a little bit about my background and how I ended up in this super exciting project with ESA. I have been interested in environmental sciences since I was quite young, I'd say, and this is what I studied in university at first. But then I decided to do my master's degree in sustainable energetics and material science in the energy sector. So I started to study the material science in solar energy and energy storage and this kind of fields. And when I started this master's program, then I naturally wanted to do some scientific research inside my master's program. So I got into or I entered this laboratory in the TalTech University, Laboratory of Photovoltaic Materials, and I met the researcher or one research group that was focusing on constructing solar panels, on developing this technology to construct solar panels from the resources that are available in the lunar regolith, because one day, pretty soon, the humans will return to the moon and possibly establish a permanent outpost there. So because I had known about these ESA opportunities for a few years, I think I found out about it from this very similar event. Once it was in AHA, I think, and I attended, and it had been one of my career goals, or kind of like a dream, so to say. So when I was finishing my master's, I also applied to the YGT program, but sadly I was not lucky, like Grete said. I was very good, but I was just not lucky. Anyway, I wasn't chosen, and me and my supervisor applied to this OSIP program at ESA to establish this co-hosted doctoral program for me to study solar panels. So ESA has a whole department or a group of activities that focuses on lunar-based exploration. So I know that, or we know that one of the main players to return to the moon is NASA with their Artemis program, but ESA is also working on the Artemis program. It's a multinational project, and ESA has its own project called Prospect to develop technology for the moon. And we are definitely returning there. And this future lunar outpost will need reliable energy sources. And there are not so many opportunities available to produce energy on the moon. As we know, there aren't fossil fuels or there isn't wind or using nuclear energy is also a bit questionable. So using solar panels is one of the most feasible opportunities. So our project was accepted by ESA, and now I have an advisor at ESTEC with whom I constantly meet to discuss our progress in material science. And we have scheduled for me to go to ESTEC to test my materials and the devices that I have fabricated. So I will go to ESTEC in April, and then I will have these very exciting experiences that I have heard about today. So very much looking forward to that. I think that this project has offered me like so many opportunities to gather in these 4 years. So it's one of the longer projects, because you know, these YTTs are usually 1 or 2, and well, I am not working at ESA all the time, or I'm not based there. I don't live there, but I will be working there for several months each year. So I will still have the opportunity to meet with people, to network, and to get these contacts and experiences, and to see what ESA is actually working on, what the research is focusing on. So my everyday work in Tallinn University of Technology includes synthesizing semiconductor crystalline powders and using them as the absorber layer in photovoltaic devices or solar cells. And then these materials will be like the precursor materials, or the materials that we need to synthesize these powders, will be mined from the lunar regolith. But this part of mining is not part of my research, because I'm not a geologist or in the mining industry, but we are also working on if these materials will be available in the regolith and how they can possibly be extracted from it. So we're working together, currently establishing partnerships with private sector companies and in Europe to cover also the whole value chain, from mining the materials, making the solar panels and the whole energy system, and then utilizing this energy as well. So I am a small wheel in this whole value chain, but I'm very excited to be here. So this was about me. If you're not chosen in YGT, there are many different options. I am not applying again this year because I'm very happy with where I am at now. Thanks. So I guess the questions will be in the end. Good luck to everyone as well.
Thank you very much, Katriin, for this exciting life as a PhD. Now we have this panel discussion and Q&A session. That if you have any questions, please write it in the chat and we can look at them through during the discussion. But I have also received some questions in writing, so maybe we'll just gather together in Zoom and here on the stage and have a look at some of the questions we have received. So some of them have already been quickly answered. For example, can one apply to more than one opening or position? Florence already replied that you can apply maximum to 2 positions for YGT. Second question was, is this open strictly to Estonian nationals or students studying in Estonia? So everyone who's from an ESA member state can apply. So you can be a student in Estonia, but you have to be a member of ESA member state and have a citizenship in one of these countries. What are the criteria for selection and what can make an application stand out? Maybe this is a good question to Florence. Are you here with us?
Yes. I've listened very attentively to everybody. And before, if you allow me, before I answer the question, I would really like to thank Grete, Lilijane, Riho, and Katriin, because I think what they said resonates with what I said. And I think it was very interesting to have their view of the, let's say, real life as a YGT. And also we heard them that, for example, Grete said she was not selected the first time and applied the second time and managed to get it. And Katriin said, okay, she didn't get it, but then she decided for something else and gave her the opportunity of another path. Okay, so I think this is very important. Now, how an application can stand out, it's difficult, but the most, let's say, the most important advice I would give is, as already said, first of all, select the opportunities which are the most in line with your profile. As we said already, and it was also said by my colleagues, even if you have not studied space or your background is not exactly in line with the opportunity, and you don't feel you are perfect, there is no perfect candidate. Perfect candidate does not exist. Okay, so just believe in who you are and what you have done. You've selected your opportunity. Now you are writing your motivation letter and your CV. Remember that it's your first contact with ESA. And if we have to, for one position, see 300 applications, of course, you have to be focused, but be clear, precise, but at the same time, tell us what you want us to know about you. I think this is very important, and this is very important to well think, what do I want the people who read my application to know? And to be, let's say, how can I say that? Honest with who you are, and also write about your motivation and what stands out from your, let's say, experience, even if it is only at university, project, or voluntary work, or yeah, whatever you've done. But try to be concise, precise, and at the same time to tell us a little bit enough so that we want to call you. Now, another thing which is very important is the what you do also aside. Because if you are, for example, if you like to play music, if you are sportive, if you are also doing things in associations, tell us in your CV, because this is you, it's your personality. So it's important to know all that.
Thank you, Florence. There are some more questions. One is about if I have an existing career and skills in software engineering, and what relates to this also, what opportunities are there for someone who has interest in informatics and physics? How can I be useful for Europe Estonian space projects? So maybe I'll comment here briefly that I would first recommend to apply for these positions that Florence was talking about, young graduate trainee, or if you have already career, also young professional program. And at the same time, try to reach out Estonian universities and scientific groups, because we all need you. If you're interested in space, then there is a lot of projects here that you could find some activities in. So yeah, you can try both. And then if you have experience as a trainee, then you're very useful for Estonia later on with all your experience and contacts.
Eire, if I may, also what I can add here is, at the beginning I showed us the chart, with the path to possibilities in ESA. If you have more experience than 3-4 years, we have also junior positions which are open. We don't open only positions for people who have 10 years or 15 years of experience. So I would highly recommend to all of you to set up these alerts, which I said, at least for ESA. And of course, there is Estonian space sector, but for ESA, if you are interested, I would highly recommend you set up these alerts.
Yes, thank you. That was relevant in this context. And let's move on with the next question. Is what are some things I should keep in mind while going through my bachelor studies in order to feel more secure about getting a solid job in 3 years? Maybe this would be a good question for one of the YGTs, maybe Riho or whoever has industry experience.
I can maybe answer briefly. As I mentioned before as well, I mean, if you're still in your studies, I would definitely recommend trying to find pastime activities that will be relevant for your career. So you can find volunteering opportunities. You can even go volunteer maybe perhaps at the ESA Estonia, or find the different opportunities that are out there and just try out new things, and then try to just build some kind of background in the fields that you're interested in. And then you can take it from there. But there's actually a lot of opportunities out there. You just need to go out there and just try it out. So yeah, that's my little advice on that.
So what I suggest is what also Maris said, that take all the opportunities that you are getting, because there is this saying that it doesn't matter what you know, but who you know. I think that it matters what you know, but sometimes it matters more who you know. And in my case, how I got a job in Milrem Robotics was that one of my university lecturers was the head of the department, and I just directly wrote to her that do they have an open position. And from Milrem Robotics, I think Milrem Robotics gave me a good platform to apply for ESA position. So just get all the connections that you get, that you can get.
Thank you, great advice. So maybe we can continue with you, Grete, Lilijane, that what was the most memorable, useful from the process of applying, and what does the application process look like? Do you have any memories?
So application process consists of 3 steps. First of all, you have a CV stage. Then you have this funny interview where you only are shown the questions, you're not speaking to anyone, and you are having a monologue. And if you get past of this stage, then you will have an actual interview. So what happened during my monologue was that, first of all, it was very uncomfortable. In the end, I felt that, okay, that didn't went well at all. But once I got to the ESA, then I spoke with other YCTs and they said that they all felt the same way, that this second interview went well at all. And I was asked some questions like what is a ground station, but I didn't have that knowledge. And I just honestly said that during this second stage interview that I don't know. And then I had like an extra 3 minutes. And then I said, but last weekend I participated in Garage 48 and we built this awesome machine and etc. and etc. So use your time to speak of things that you have done in case you don't know the answers to the questions. And it's okay to say that you don't know.
May I also compliment on what Grete Lilijane is saying, please, Era here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. First of all, what I would like to say is that all applicants can follow the status of their applications during the whole process, and all applicants, even the ones who are rejected before interview, will have an answer, a letter notification from us. Second, most of the opportunities, for most of the opportunities, we have, exactly as Grete Lilijane say, what we call an interview with a video tool, interaction video tool. So it's true, you are alone in front of the camera and it's very uncomfortable, but it's uncomfortable for everybody. And I fully subscribe to what you say. If you don't know, just say it, because if you don't know, we will see that you don't know. We will understand that you don't know. And after this, this phase is what we call pre-selection phase. It can also be made by telephone or by also Teams or WebEx or whatever it is, but mostly through this video tool. And then the last step is the final interview, which will take place virtually and for at least 45 minutes, where we ask you your knowledge about ESA, about what you have done, about your motivation, about the opportunity in particular. So get prepared, because this is extremely important. You may think, I know everything, I know what they are going to ask me. No, get prepared, because the competition is really tough. So you don't come to the interview without knowing anything about ESA or the space sector of your country, the main missions which have been launched during the past months, these kind of things. You have to be prepared also on your own approach to work, what you prefer, how you like to be in a team, etc., etc.
Thank you, Florence. There was actually another question that asked that how many people have previously applied to one position on average? You said it's a tough position. Is there statistics about this?
Of course, but now it will be difficult for me to say for one position, but we have some positions where we have easily 250, 300 candidates, some who have 60, some who have 20, but very often it's around 100. And as I said, remember last year, 10,000 candidates for 100 positions.
Yes, that's amazing. So we'll all get prepared. Maybe Riho at the end has some also interesting, memorable experience from the application process.
It was exactly more or less as Grete said. Basically, yeah, the automated interview was the trickiest part. But other than that, I think it was not too complicated, just applied. Yeah, for the automated interview as well, I was actually living in Tajikistan at the time. And I had, let's say, severe problems with internet connectivity. So I was terrified that any second I might just disappear from the screen. And but I was lucky enough that I could do it in one go without any problems. But yeah, it was quite actually constantly I had trouble with being on meetings, and next moment I'm gone mid-sentence. And that was actually the trickiest part for me, but that was a bit of a special case. But yeah, but and the interview went quite well. So I met already my teammates, my current teammates, and I really like the team and what they're doing. So yeah, nothing else to say here.
Thank you very much. So we're running out of time now, and we're finished with questions. So thank you very much. Thank you for the speakers. These stories have been great and very interesting. And thank you for all the participants. And as you know, reach out for us, ask questions, and hopefully we'll put this video up online in YouTube. So we'll let you know about that, so you can go through the slides again. Thank you again, and good luck with the applications.
Thank you very much, and we wait for your applications with pleasure.
Indeed. Thank you, Florence.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.